Hey guys, welcome back. So, let me just change this to them standard, and I'll change the move to move topological. So, yeah, I can either work between the move or move topological actually. So, in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to sculpt this stylized Lionel Messi character on the left hand side. So, the reference is from Mid Journey Facebook group. So, it's a AI generated concept. So I'm going to be working on this. So the head plane I'm using is just a basic head plane from Zbrush Lightbox. So if you open up the Lightbox from the head plane folders, you should find any of this in there. So I'm basically using the head plane male head for this. So I'm going to be using this as my base to kind of sculpt in this reference image we have on the side. Okay, so I'm basically just blocking out the eyes right now. Now just dig this in just to create some kind of depth or indentation in there to kind of plug in my eye mesh in there. So let me just kind of tilt this around. I want to just kind of capture the general eye shape for this. So the general concept, the idea for this tutorial is not to get the perfect topology for the model. Though I'm still going to be doing some kind of high detail rendering of this using XGen instead of Maya to kind of create the hair. But I'm just basically, so this is more like a practice for me. So, but I just want to record my entire process and then just post for you guys to see in case you guys are wondering how I made it. So, and I'm still going to be dropping some more tutorials like this on my YouTube page. Just freehand sculpting and then try to get some kind of decent renders out of my sculpt inside of Maya, or maybe probably Momoset 2 bag. But we'll see. So I'm just plugging in and insert an IMM sphere in here just for the eyes. So I'm just going to try and get a prop. No, this is squashing. So something like this, and I'll just plug that into the eye sockets just to have a placeholder for that. Just have a placeholder to work with. So I honestly don't know how long this tutorial is going to take, but I'm not rushing this entire process because this is, like I said initially, this is just like a personal practice for me. So I'm not really too concerned about doing this as quickly as possible to save as much time as possible. I'm just basically just doing this off project. So I have other personal project I'm working on that are more interesting that I'm going to be posting for you guys to see later on. But for now, I just want to kind of clear my head and then do something off. So I'm kind of using splits on max point. So you should split out the sphere out of this head plane subtool and put that sphere on a different subtool. So now I'm kind of refining the eyes. So I'm still going to work on the eye bit. But now, for right now, there isn't much topology on this to kind of work with, to kind of get the desired result I'm looking for. But I'm just trying to kind of block out things. I'm basically blocking things out now. Yeah, just to have something going that looks good enough to work with, and then later on when I do a rematch for this and kind of get better even topology around this, though not good enough topology to use for animation anyways, but just to have something to just to have something in there, just good enough even topology around this. So in case I want kind of texture and then add some more detail in there. So let me just using this eye reference on the left hand side to kind of capture the flow of the eye. So as you well know, the eye is not completely spherical, so it's more like an oval shape with more of a pinch at both ends. So I'm just kind of using uh just kind of using my eyes, kind of measure out how the shape of the eye should be, and then using the dem standard to kind of carve out the landmark of where the eye should be. So yeah, something like this looks fine. So we're getting there. We're getting there already. So already blocking things out already. I think I'm going to be providing you guys with the links with the image reference for this. So I'm blocking out the mouth now. So everything now looks really rough. So for sculpts like this or any sculpt at all that you're starting from scratch, you always want to be really patient with the process, like very patient with the process. And while you're being patient with the process, you also want to be conscious of making precise strokes on this. So because the more you make strokes that are not precise on your model, the longer the time you have to spend on that model. And the only way you can make precise stroke on the model to kind of save time and then do things quickly is when you have experience on doing a particular thing multiple times. So it's completely fine if you make mistake because this is ZBrush. This is ZBrush. So as we're concepting the major ideas on your base mesh, it's more of a non-destructive it's more of a non-destructive way of working. So you can always go back and then tweak things. Even though you break things, you can always go back and then fix that up because in this part of conceptualizing the model or your base mesh to look like the reference image. So you have like unlimited I won't say time, but your imaginations can really go wide on this and then do a lot of it do quite a lot of things on this, and then even though you make mistake, you can always go back and then take that off and then do some precise concepting on your base model. And also you also want to like you're not putting too much emphasis right now on the topology of this. So you're more or less putting more emphasis on kind of getting the ideas you have in your head on the model in more of a block out stage. So not completely refined, but in more of a block out stage. So that's like the general idea behind this. So you want to just keep calm, keep working on this, and just basically just play with the model and have fun. So now as you can see, this base mesh is not called head plane for nothing because you can see it's kind of showing you planes of the head where like whereby major landmarks of the structural and the anatomical structure of the face is going to be built upon, and that's why you have most of this plane around this. So and it's always advisable to always have a realistic head model on the side or a 3D scan model on this side because despite how stylized this particular model is, so let me just use the standard brush and just dig into the nose a bit more just to block out where the nose space should be. So I'm going to be alternating through explaining some basic concepts while working on a particular mesh or any mesh at all, and still explaining what I'm actually doing on the model, so you guys can kind of follow along and then flow along with me, so you guys don't get lost in what I'm doing. So even though you get lost, you get the general idea of why I'm doing what I'm doing. But for now, I'm basically using the reference image on the main reference image on the right hand side to kind of block things out because even though I'm blocking things out, I also have an idea of how some anatomical structures of the human head should be. Even though keeping in mind that this particular reference image is stylized, you still want to have ideas of realistic anatomical landmarks and structures in your head so that you don't stray off the normal way the human face should be, though still kind of stylizing them later on. So, but I'm still going to bring out a better anatomical reference for this just to show you guys what I'm doing. and why I'm doing that. So let's see. I'll fill up this jaw. So I want to kind of get the jaw rounded. From the reference image, the jaw is not visible. It's not very much visible. It's not more visible at all. But I'm going to be using the general anatomical structure for this. I'm going to be using a more generalized anatomical structure for this, just to block out how the jawline should be. So, and that's completely fine. That's completely fine. So, so it's more or less like the idea is to, in whatever aspects whereby your reference image does not add up or does not reveal to you, based on the fact that you already have some anatomical reference in your head already from working on other various models, or even though you have not worked on other various model, even though you don't have the ideas in your head, so long you have the reference image on a realistic anatomical reference on the side, it will kind of help you a lot to kind of block things out where your reference image is not really adding up to give you full details of what is actually in there, which in most cases is fine because okay, let me not say most concepts, in some concepts that you find online, you might not find the complete views of everything you need. Even though you have the complete views of everything you need, so long you're working for an organic structure that is more or less human-like or has that human feeling around it, human bombs and structures and alignments and stuff like that on top of it. Okay, so that kind of block. So you always want to have a reference on the side, a realistic anatomical reference on the side. So even though you're doing this for the first time, you always want to stick with the anatomical reference on the side. Though anatomical reference may differ depending on the face, but the major landmark still remains the same. Landmark still remains the same. So I'm just working on the nose now, just to get this to look similar to what we have on the reference image. So for now, it may not. So this is what I like to do when anytime I'm working on a head on an head model. So I always like to tell myself to be really patient with the process. Once you begin to lose patience on the process, you begin to, if you're making precise strokes 30 minutes ago, and you're beginning to feel impatient with the model, your mind has the tendency to begin to make strokes that are not precise on the model, and strokes that will kind of break the uniform flow you already have on the model to kind of capture the likeness of the reference. So what I always like to tell myself is that I'm not going to get impatient on this project until I've worked on this project up to 2 hours or 3 hours. But that's depending on the asset you're working on actually. So for an head, I always like to give myself like a 2 hours or 3 hours grace, just to be patient, just to be patient with the model. And then if after working on the model for more than 2 hours and I discover it's not looking good enough, then maybe by that time I can tell myself, okay, I'm not really doing this right, and I'm not close enough yet. Then probably decide to do that all over again. But that depends on the particular on the mass of the model you're working on actually. So for an head model, I like to give myself 2 hours, and I tell myself for the next 2 hours I'm going to be working on this particular head model. I want to be as precise as possible, and I'm going to be as careful as possible, and I'm going to be as slow as possible for me to kind of get each stroke right. So basically, I'm basically telling myself that for each stroke I'm about to make, I want to be really careful. I want to be really careful enough to look at the reference image, one, then look at the anatomical reference image, the realistic anatomical reference image, two, and then based on those two, block out the landmark, and then modify the landmark I've blocked out to look like the reference image or the concept reference image I'm working with. So so this is like the thought pattern I have in my head anytime I'm making every single stroke. So now I'm kind of smoothing out. These planes now are just all over the place. So I'm using a higher intensity. I'm using a higher intensity for the smooth brush, kind of smooth all of this back down, because based on the reference image I have, these head planes are not there. Though I'm also keeping in mind that I don't want to. I also don't want to over smooth out those head plane, because they are there as a guide. They're actually there as a guide. So I want to just smooth them, but not smooth them completely. Maybe if I should weigh out the smoothing, maybe probably like smooth them up to 70%, and still leave that faded 30% in there. So to give me an idea of, okay, this is like a major landmark of the face, and this is where I'm supposed to block this particular this particular what should I use now? This particular region of the face. So these planes are giving me a guide of where it should be. So that's like general concepts. Though you won't find the airplanes are not completely the planes are not completely everywhere in the face. So you still have to make up for some parts, just like I'm doing now. Kind of carving out some other planes of the air that are not actually in this airplane. Somewhere like around the eye socket region now. So somewhere around the eye socket region that the planes are not there. So I'm kind of blocking things out in there. And then see smoothing things out here and there. So like I said, you really have to be really patient with the project, like really patient with the process. Because if you're not patient with the process, if you're not patient enough with the process, you begin to get frustrated, and immediately you get frustrated on this, you begin to make strokes that are not precise enough. So now kind of blocking out that cheekiness around the cheekbone. So kind of blocking out that fleshiness around the cheekbone, just to make this feel a bit fatter, if I should say. Just like the reference image now, whereby he's smiling, and then that part of the cheek is more fleshy. So while I'm blocking this out with the clear build-up brush, I'm also keeping in mind the direction. So another thing you need to keep in mind while working on organic surfaces is the direction. You always want to avoid directions that are very linear. So it's more or less like, even though you're making, if you can see, as I can see now, I'm adding a curve to that build up. I'm adding a curve. I'm actually adding a curve to that build up. So I'm not just blocking out a straight line around there. I'm not blocking a straight line around there. So it has a curve to it. It's like it has a kind of C curve around that cheek region. So you still want to be careful. You still have to be mindful of the deformation direction. The deformation direction is also important. If you're not mindful of the deformation deformation I word I use right now. If you're not conscious of the deformation flow on that on that on the surface, you kind of mess up what you already have. So majorly, you do not want to have linear straight lines around organic characters. You do not want to have that, because if you look at the human face, especially for older people, you would you would realize that the wrinkles around older people's face, the deformation and the contours and the breakups of fleshiness or sagginess around older older faces, you realize that they're not so linear. Because if they are so linear, then that means the human face is not organic now. It should be like hard surface in a way, like mechanical. And the human face is not mechanical. Organic models, organic materials and organic surfaces are not usually mechanical. So you still want to have some kind of flow of curviness around them. It shouldn't be too linear. So that's like the general concept around working on organic surfaces, be it alien, human, you name it. So I'm more or less just blocking out the lips now. Initially, the initial lips I blocked out was more of a realistic lip. But this is a stylized lip, so it needs to be a bit thinner and then should feel a bit stylized. So I'm just kind of thickening out the upper and lower part of the lips, just thickening those out. So it feels more flesh like. So like I said before, you just blocking out stage. You want to let me just keep repeating this. You want to be patient on the blocking out stage. Like really, really patient on the blocking out stage. You don't want to get impatient and begin to make strokes that are not precise on this. So basically, I'm basically using my head right now to kind of block out where some of these should be because the reference image does not give me a good guide for where that should be and how it should be. So I'm kind of using the anatomical reference in my head to kind of block this out. Also, for a starting out stage, you don't want to begin to compare yourself to professionals because once you begin to compare yourself to professionals, depending on how fast you should be, you begin to doubt your skills and begin to slow down your growth process because the idea is not to be extremely fast because for it to be extremely fast, you have to have a ton of experience working on different model for you to make precise strokes without having to go over a place more than 5 times before you get what you're looking for. So for beginners, for beginners and for intermediate sculpt artists, it's always ideal not to pay too much attention to speed, but pay more attention to making it look precise as close as possible. Even though you spend 20 minutes on a particular region, just to make that look precise and good enough based on the concept you're working on, it's good. That's a really good way to learn because over time, you kind of train your mind to kind of know what you should do and how you should do it, and then just do it just like that. So you don't have to go over that place multiple times, and you can only build that when you have more experience working on various aspects of that same model or that same working on that same structure or working on that same project over time. So you really want to be patient to the process. And another advice would be I don't consider myself to be a professional yet, but I consider myself to have some measure of experience working on something like this because at some points I made mistakes too. So based on the mistakes, I'm giving my own personal advice. So you can always you might not really my advice may not be the best, but I believe it should be helpful enough because I believe if the advice helped me, so it should also help you too to some extent. But you don't have to take my advice for it. You can always go on and make your own research and be sure if I'm not lying to you or if I'm lying to you. So if I'm not lying to you, you can take the advice. If I'm actually lying to you, please dispose the advice as soon as possible and then look for something that actually works for you. So I'm not giving advice based on what actually works for me. So if you notice now for a while now, I've gotten a more so this particular head plane on the left hand side, this particular reference on the left hand side has more precise. It just like the base mesh we use had head planes had planes in there. But this particular reference on the side now has more head planes in it, kind of show you precisely where some things should be. Like primary landmarks of head planes, then secondary landmarks of head planes. So it's basically primary and secondary landmarks of head planes around your model. So though this is for a realistic character though, but it still applies. It still applies to stylize the realistic characters. So like I said before, use the anatomical reference head plane or reference you have, and then once you block out those landmarks, then you can modify those landmarks to look like the concept you're working with, be it stylized, realistic, whatever it is. Okay, so now I'm just kind of use the red plane now to kind of begin to block things out. So the idea is to do this, or you do this multiple times. Once you have done worked on the various projects, it becomes second nature to you to kind of know where and how you should block things out. So if you compare this to what we had 20 minutes ago, you notice that there are already some drastic change around the airplane already, and we're already getting slowly closer and closer and closer to what we actually want. But this now on this what should I call this now? Working on this, blocking things out now is kind of begin to get shape, which is exactly what we want. So I'll just continue to keep refining, refining, refining until I get something close enough. So right now, the topology for this model is not enough to kind of hold this model. Now I should have added more subdivision on this, but I won't do that now because I want to kind of block out most of the major landmarks of the face before kind of adding some more definition to this and then doing things more precisely around this. So I think the eyes for this character is smaller, but mine the eyes for mine is actually bigger. I'm still going to work on that to kind of um adjust that a bit more later on. Let me just fill this up a bit more, even more. So yeah. Let's I forget. It's always important. Anytime you're working on it, anytime you because my idea for sculpting organic structures on face or body or whatever it is to zoom in, block things out, then zoom back out. I kind of check that from a distance. Because if you spend too much time on a close-up view, you would realize that when you zoom back out, you added either too much or you added too little. And either the distance, the measurement is just way too wide or way too short. So it's always good practice to kind of zoom back out some more. Always it's always good practice, always good practice, always zoom back out and then check your model from a distance. So your mind can kind of so your eyes can kind of make some rough measurements on the distance of things. So and as if you keep doing that regularly, you begin to train your eyes kind of keep to measure distance, depth, and how much you want that build up should be. Okay, let's see. Let me see what else I can do. Let me just block out this temporal line. So the silhouette of this model now is not completely there yet. So I'm just creating space to see the silhouette of this head. So I want to kind of push things, kind of capture the silhouette deformation of the entire head itself. So I'm only working with just one reference image on the side because I don't have a reference image for the front on view, but that's completely fine. That is completely fine. So while working on other models of the head, I kind of have a general idea of how things should be. That's why I can comfortably work with just the side reference image of this model, which is good enough for me based on my experience of working on other. I don't have a lot of experience working on heads actually, but based on the experience I have, I can do an approximation of how the silhouette of the head should be. So I'm kind of trying to eliminate those landmarks on the head by blocking by smooth adding some fleshiness on this and then smoothing that out. Okay. Checking this from a distance now, I can see some errors I've made on this, and I'll try to correct those errors as much as possible. So let me just keep blocking things out and making corrections to this as I go. Okay. So you can see now I'm zooming this as a distance, kind of figure out how things should be. So for this part now, let me kind of erase that out and I'll smooth that back down. Okay, and I'll smooth all of this back down. I might even need to let me just increase the intensity of this brush to kind of do a more smooth on this, just to have this feel more blended in. So I have to kind of smoother transition to it. So let me do that for the neck also. Okay, just smooth all of this out. Let's see. I think now I need to elongate the neck. Kind of get the proportion of the neck in there because I see now this looks more of a it looks more of a realistic neck to me for you, a realistic human character. But this is a stylized character we're working with. So I want to kind of make the neck look more stylized because it should feel more thinner. The neck should be more thinner. So let me just kind of get this to look more thinner. Okay. I don't think. Let me just kind of push this gizmo up around here. Yeah, somewhere around there should be fine. Okay, let me just kind of zoom out and just see something like so should be fine for this. Okay. Then I will need to elongate. I need to exclude the head. Let's see. And I'll just smooth this out. I think I'll just smooth this out. Let me smooth this. Let me just kind of get this blended back in. I'm smoothing that out. Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of checking the silhouette of the back of the neck. I also need to fix that also, the silhouette for the back of the neck. Just to get everything looking, at least let the silhouette look okay. But another thing to keep in mind is the silhouette of the face. If you can get the silhouette of the face earlier on while blocking things out, so it gives you an additional advantage so that when you're kind of adding the secondary or tertiary details on top of that, everything kind of blends in properly because you've already captured the silhouette of the head earlier on. I'm just maxing this out. Maxing things out. And I need to elongate the neck. The neck should be longer. Yeah, it has to be longer. So let me just pull this down even more. Let's see how long this should be. So I'm zooming out just to see how long this should be. Yeah, maybe even more. Somewhere around here should be. Somewhere around here should be fine, I guess. So I still need to shrink the neck. I think I'm still going to shrink the neck even more. So something like something like this should be it. Yeah, something like this should be it. Should just to capture that silhouette of the neck. Something like this looks good. So smoothing things back down. Just smooth all of this back down even more. So I need to be on symmetry. Make sure you're on symmetry. I should be on symmetry for this. So I'm not on symmetry. So I'll need to undo this and then make sure I'm working on symmetry. So the silhouette of the back of the neck now. Let me just make some adjustment for this. With the move to let me kind of capture the silhouette for the back of the neck. Because that is also important too. You still want to capture that silhouette for the back of the neck. Very important. So let me blowing this out. I'll just push this in some more just to capture the silhouette for the back of the neck because this is a 3D model. This is actually a 3D model because yes, this is a 3D model because you need to be visualizing this on all views. So you also want to make sure all views are also correct. Very important. All views should also be correct. Very, very important. Very important. Okay. So that's why if you notice I'm kind of spinning around stupendically just to make sure every single aspect of the 3D of all 3D views are kind of correct. If not, you just realize that oh wow, the front view looks awesome. And then when the person kind of checking out your model checks the side view, checks the back view, you notice that oh no, it looks terrible and looks awful. So you always want to kind of spin around stupendically, kind of make sure everything's working correctly. Because even though you're working any particular model you're working on, as long as 3D, you realize that you spend like 50% spinning around the model, spinning around the model. I keep wondering, how come we spin around the model sometimes and our eyes don't get dizzy? Because naturally, when you stand and it keeps spinning around, spinning around, spinning around, over time you get dizzy, and then your perspective view gets messed up, completely messed up. You begin to see things spinning around you. But as a 3D artist, we spin around a lot in our 3D models. Yet our eyes don't get dizzy. It's a mystery, isn't it? It feels like a mystery to me actually. It feels like a mystery to me. It should actually be a mystery. Well, enough about that. Enough about uh, propagandas and theories that may not have any medical backing to it. So let's just keep working on our model. So yeah, for the jaw now, I'm not gonna blocking things in. So I don't really have a reference image for the jaw, but I'm not basically using my head right now. The anatomical reference image I have in my head kind of block things in. So just fill this out. Okay. We're getting there already. We're already getting there already. We're getting things are already getting slowly getting there. Slowly getting there. Slowly getting there. Slowly getting there. Forgive me. I joke a lot. I joke a lot. I joke a lot. So back to this. So now I'm realizing that the jaw is just too long. Though you might decide to keep the jaw as long as it is, though, if you want to, because the beard will actually be covering up the length of that jaw. But I feel the jaw is just way too long. So I might just have to later on just kind of push this down a bit more. So I'm just going to smooth this back down, zoom out here, we're getting there. I get in there. So unlike other stylized reference images whereby you see some defined planes, if you see keep some kind of defined planes around the anatomical structure of things. But for this particular one, it feels it's almost okay. Let me say caricature. Yes, yeah, it's actually a caricature. The reference image is actually a caricature, but it still has some kind of realistic features to it, like for the roundness of the nose, roundness of the cheek. The lips are completely stylized. We can leave that the way it is. The eyes also is not completely stylized. It still has that general shape of a realistic human eyes, only smaller. So that's why trying to adjust the eyes now, just to make the eyes feel more smaller, feel more smaller, because our eyes were just way too wide. So now I'm just kind of adjusting the placeholder eyeball we have in there, just to push that in and kind of get things back in shape. Okay, I'm just gonna get this back in shape. Okay, yeah, I think this should be fine. And I'm still going to make some changes to that also. So you don't want to get too impatient. Like I've said this before, do not get impatient with the process right now. So just keep adding things up slowly. Keep adding things up slowly over time. Over time, you kind of capture that realistic feeling of it over time. So that's like general idea and general concept to this. And also, yes, very important. Check this from different views. So now I'm just kind of looking at this from just below, because I noticed that why to kind of get the correct shape of the eyes, try and work on the eyes from below. Just look at the eyes from below. So kind of capture the roundness of the eyes, because generally the eyeball is not completely circular though, but the eyelids kind of wraps around that almost circular shape of the eyeball. So you still want to have that kind of rounded rounded enveloping feel or look on your eyelid. So that's why it's very important also to kind of check this from under, just like from under the model, from the jaw angle. So you can kind of wrap the eye around that eyeball. And that's why we typically use circular shape for the eyeball. Just kind of get the eyelid to kind of wrap around that. So yeah, so I'm kind of blocking out things for the neck now. Just kind of blocking out things for the neck. I'll just smooth those back down. I'll be smoothing that back down. Okay. Let's see. Let me just kind of expand this even more. Let me use the move brush and just kind of expand this. Okay. Yeah, I think we're almost there. Yeah, I know. We're still going to add the shirt on top of this. We're still going to add shirt on top of this. And we're still going to kind of create UVs for this also. So I'm still going to kind of follow the same workflow of creating a production ready model, but just avoiding, I'll not say avoiding, but just skipping the part of getting something, getting topology that is completely accurate for animation. So I'm not going to be doing something as all the way to that. But I'm still going to have fair enough topology for this, just to create some decent UVs, and then so I can actually texture this instead of, I might not have to texture this instead of Substance Painter though. I will just have to, I might just do most of the work entirely in ZBrush here. Then the rendering will just be inside of Maya, or maybe Mom set to bag. So either ways, this particular tutorial is going to be ZBrush intensive. We're going to be majorly working on using ZBrush to kind of create most of what we need here inside of ZBrush. Okay, so I'll just keep refining most of this, and just keep refining this. So let me just dig this in even more, all the way to the side, and I'll smooth that back down. No, that disconnects. So let me just smooth this back down. Okay. So I'm kind of blocking things up here now for the eyebrow. Just blocking things in, something like so. I'll just blend that back down. Yeah, for most of the face of stylized character, you are mostly symmetrical. At least the ones I've seen though. The ones I've seen are mostly symmetrical. At least for the structure of their face is mostly symmetrical. So I think most of the time they kind of break up the surface. Maybe when they want to add in some scars, some kind of scars in there, maybe texture variation on top of that. So I kind of break up that symmetrical structure of the face on the texture, by adding scars on it. But for the most part, if you just a face without scars, or problem, or too much wrinkle, or younger faces of the stylized character, is mostly symmetrical. They're usually mostly symmetrical, mostly. Okay. So I'm just kind of blocking things out for the lips. Okay. So the smile was looking a bit weird to me. It's still looking a bit weird, and perhaps I'm still going to adjust that. But just to have a blockout in there actually, so I'm basically creating blockouts in there. Just blocking things. No, let me undo that. Just blocking things out the way it should be. So another thing that can actually help is anytime you work on a model, maybe for like 30, 30 or 40 minutes, or maybe probably even 1 hour. It's always good to kind of stop, and then, especially when it's personal project actually. So you always want to kind of stop, and then just let this be. And then just let this be. Then later on you can always come back and then check the model. You realize that you made some issues in some particular region that can be fixed. But overall, you have the idea is to have overall the idea is to have fresh eye to kind of make some corrections around the model. So we're already getting close to We're already getting close to the end of this first section, blocking things out for the head. We're already getting really close to this. So generally, I'm not supposed to spend a lot of time on this blocking now stage because I don't want the tutorial to be too long. I don't want it to be too long. So the idea is just to block something now that looks close enough. It might not be absolutely accurate though, but something close enough. Just to avoid spending a lot of time and then wasting you guys' time watching this for a really long time. But it's always advisable on your own to kind of spend more time on the model and kind of capture the likeness, be it for stylized or realistic, as close as you possibly can. So that's like general idea for this for that. But I'm still going to do my best, kind of capture something close enough. Maybe probably off tutorials for just minor tweaks. I'll just do that off tutorial. Or maybe I can just do everything in tutorial so you guys can see the entire process because it will be also good practice to kind of show you guys my entire process so you guys don't get lost in some particular parts or regions whereby I made corrections and then you guys come back and you feel like, wait, what did he just do? What did he do here? He did not show us this in the previous tutorial. I did not. So just to avoid that, I will just have to kind of show you guys the entire process, regardless of how slow it may be or how lengthy it may be. Because I'm sure you guys want to learn one or two, so it's be good practice to kind of learn one or two. So I'm kind of having issues here on the eye because there isn't enough topology to kind of hold that. So let me just kind of leave that for now and then work on that later on when I have more topology to work with. So I'm on doing that just to take this back to the way it was before. So we're already in a good spot. Not completely there though, but we're already in a good spot. So in the next lesson, we're going to keep refining and blocking things out even more. So I think we're in a good spot now. And I will then just add another layer of this. Okay, and I'm going to smooth that back out. Just have another layer of that in there. And this will be the last thing we're going to be doing for this particular section or first part of the blocking out stage. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.